What do evangelicals for Harris, Christians for Kamala, and pro-lifers dumping Donald Trump all have in common? Confusion. Well, we're going to work through some of that and provide you some moral clarity here on the program with my guest, Scott Klusendorf. Well, hello, everybody. Mark Harrington here, your radio activist, and you can follow us on social media by going to all the popular podcasting platforms. And if you would, share the broadcast, like it, and leave a 5-star review. Friends, we've been talking a lot about the presidential election, and we're going to do it again today because there's a whole lot of moral confusion out there coming from professing Christians often. And so we need to talk about that today on the program. And I have as my good friend and colleague, Scott Klusendorf, with us today. Scott, thanks for being on the program.
Mark, always a pleasure to join you.
It's good to be with you, Scott. We met back in 1998 when you put on a support-raising seminar. And then, of course, we could say the rest is history because
it feels like now. History. That was a long time ago.
It is history. Some 26 years ago, and I've been at it ever since. And so have you. And Scott, I've been following you on social media. Been looking at what you've been saying about the presidential election, and I just kind of want to set the stage here about the Trump-Harris matchup. We're recording this program on the day of the presidential debate. It'll probably be the only one, more than likely. That's what we're hearing anyway, between Harris and Trump. And I want to set the stage a little bit for where we go with this, because I supported President Trump in 2016. I supported him in 2020. Of course, President Trump came through for us as pro-life advocates in a big way, obviously, by putting 3 justices on the Supreme Court that overturned Roe v. Wade, something that we have all been working for. I've been working for my entire career in the pro-life movement. So we owe him a debt of gratitude, and I think that's true. And so we want to look back. We thank him for all he's done. But as we've been seeing more recently, this, if you want to call it an evolving position on abortion that isn't making a lot of pro-lifers very happy, including myself, and I think I can speak for you in this. Yeah. In some of the things he's been saying, some of his the things that his vice presidential candidate has been saying that are problematic. The first is that he wants to leave this up to the states. Now, I understand when Roe was overturned, it was returned to the states. We understand that. But to think that there is no federal remedy or issue here is not accurate. The federal government can play a very large role in the abortion issue. The president has the bully pulpit. The president has executive orders, the administration. The president can nominate Supreme Court justices to the U.S. Supreme Court, which, by the way, still matter and matter a lot. And he can also sign legislation that is pro-life. So there's a lot the president can do. It's wrong for Trump and Vance to say it's only a states' rights issue. That's not accurate. But it is in the states right now for the most part. And so we'll take it. We'll take it at that for now. I mean, but to say that it's only a states' rights issue would be like saying, well, slavery was a states' rights issue. Some things they're not put up for a vote. No. I mean, this is an issue that is the right to life is enshrined in our mission statement as a nation, the Declaration of Independence, that says we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. And the founders listed the right to life as the first one. And that's where all our rights come from. So they're wrong on that. I get it. It is in the states. We're battling in the states. That's where it's going to be for the foreseeable future. I get it. Lately, they've made comments about IVF that are not pro-life. But last week, thankfully, President Trump did come out and say he was going to vote no on Amendment 4 in Florida. So we do have that. And I think that's a big plus. So anyway, that I wanted to set the stage briefly, and that's obviously a very quick synopsis of the past and where the Trump and Vance stand right now. But having said all that, there are pro-life advocates and others who are saying they're not going to vote for Trump. Let me go through them. We have evangelicals for Harris.
Oh,
I don't even want to go
lovely.
there. Yeah, lovely, is it? Well, that's an oxymoron, I think, actually, just in their name. Christians for Kamala. How about that one? That's a beauty. What about and David French, who wrote for the, I think, if you would, Mr. Producer, put up that, I think it was the New York Times. Yeah, New York Times, a couple weeks ago, came out and said, to save conservatism from itself, I am voting for Harris. I mean, please. And then just what was it last weekend? Steph Curry from the Golden State Warriors, a professing Christian again, who was, could have been aborted himself, came out and said he's voting for Kamala Harris. So this is the type of confusion that we have out there on, you would say, the pro-life side, if you want. And then to go beyond that, we have my friends. There are plenty in the movement that disagree with me on this. Lila Rose is one. And she's come out recently and says she's not going to vote for Trump. And if you would, Mr. Producer, put up that tweet, and then I'm going to throw it over to you, Scott, and I just want you to kind of respond to all of this. I love Lila Rose. She does great work. And listen, I get it if you have a conscience issue with Trump and principally you can't vote for him. Okay, we can have that conversation. I think strategically, pragmatically, politically, it's the wrong move, and we'll get into that. But let me read this. This gets to the crux of the question, I think, when it comes to pro-lifers who are rightfully troubled by the direction of the GOP and the positions of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, who are saying they can't vote for him. So I want to read this. This is just part of the tweet. It says this: expressions of disappointment are not enough. And what she's saying there is, we're disappointed with Trump and Vance. That's true. Disappointment is not being counted at the ballot box. That's true as well. The currency and the language in this season is votes. True. Trump has plenty of opportunity to still win the pro-life vote, and it will only help his campaign. I want Trump to win as a pro-life candidate, but let's be clear. Trump winning as a pro-abortion candidate is a loss for the pro-life movement. What do you say, Scott Klusendorf, in response to all of this? I know it's nuanced, it's complicated to some degree. Help us think clearly when it comes to this presidential election, if you would.
Well, Lila and others are not wrong to be disappointed. I'm supremely disappointed in what I'm seeing the GOP and the Trump campaign do on the issue of abortion. I much prefer what Ron DeSantis did over the weekend and come out and basically say, if you're a real Republican, oppose Amendment 4 in Florida that would write abortion into the Constitution there. He came right out and said, this is our obligation to do. That's the kind of leadership I think all of us are looking for.
Right.
But it's always the case, Mark, that politics is the art of the possible. And Christians are always confronted with this tension between what our principles are and what the real world presents us in a given election cycle. For example, if you were a Christian in the Continental Congress in 1976, would you have voted for the Declaration of Independence, even though the language condemning slavery was stripped from it to allow the southern states to come into the Union? Or if you were a follower of William Wilberforce in England in the 18th century, would you have voted to limit the slave trade, even though it didn't ban slavery outright? It seems to me that as Christians, the principle we need to zero in on is this. In the particular election cycle I am in at the moment, what is the greatest moral good I can do? And I'll answer that question. The greatest moral good is to limit evil and promote the good insofar as possible, given the realities on the ground. We don't need to sacrifice our principles to do that. And what I'm struck with is this. What is going to be a tougher job? Helping reform the GOP or digging out of a massive hole that 8 years or 4 years of Harris would give us? And I think it'd be a much easier job to reform the GOP. Let's regroup and let's fight again in the next election cycle. Let's get in the game earlier on the Central Committee elections. Let's get the right people on that. Those are the people that determine the platform policy. Let's win the game earlier next time. But this time, I'll tell you what, I'm voting for a stay of execution because I think the damage done to the pro-life movement with a Harris-Walz administration would be awful.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to dig out of that hole and sacrifice lives of unborn humans that might be saved if we can limit the damage done. And I think we've got to do that.
Well, we're definitely kindred spirits on this, Scott. I've actually been looking beyond November in a sense. Obviously, November's focused, but some of this is cake is baked in the cake. I mean, the Trump Harris, or I'm sorry, Trump Vance tickets probably not going to change their position on abortion a whole lot. We might be able to move him a bit here and there and get him to say the right thing here and there. The fact that he's voting for Amendment 4 is a big plus, and may actually mean that make the difference in that state. But we got to look to 22 and 26, and I hate always kicking the can down the road here, but I think you're right about the Republican Party, the platform. We need to reform it and pick a candidate next time. Hopefully, somebody like Ron DeSantis who can be our standard bearer. And primary some of these plinos, I call them pro-lifers in name only,
Yeah.
and make it clear next time we're not going to allow this to happen, and have a real strategy going forward. I don't think voting no on Trump alone is a strategy. It's not. We've got to
It's
have
a protest, but it's not.
It's a protest. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Let me quote. This is Frank Pavone. I think this is a really good quote. I don't know if you've seen this, but I think he nails it. He says this. He says to his pro-life friends, and of course, Pavone's a strong Trump supporter. He says the house is on fire, meaning America, and he asks the question: who's best to put out the fire? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? I mean, that's your choices.
Yeah, your choice is really between a first-class arsonist and a second-class fireman. I mean, who are you going with?
Exactly. And he says it's not so much who's going to be the most pro-life president right now, but who's the most pro-American. Who would be the most pro-American president? In other words, he's talking about free speech. I mean, I don't know about you, but in a Harris administration, I might be in jail for all I know. Free speech, the shutting down of social media, the targeting of your political opposition. We're seeing that. Pro-lifers are being put in jail for sidewalk counseling, so on, so forth. That's important as well. So it as much as the pro-life issue is central, and I think obviously that's the issue that we care most about. There are bigger things to be thinking about. And the house is on fire. I think Frank Pavone puts it right.
Well, Mark, here's the thing. The pro-life movement presupposes we have a republic with certain principles in place that allow us to get our messaging out and our legislation out. Excellent. If you lose that structure, we're basically under tyranny with no restraint at all from keeping the left in check. So you don't want to lose the republic. You don't want to lose the founding principles in a protest vote against a guy you're angry about. We got to think bigger than that.
Agreed. I've always said that social reform is not possible without free speech. It's just not. And we need that. And you know what Harris will do on that. So let's address some of the concerns out there, Scott, if you would. This happens every 4 years to a degree. This year, it's more pronounced because of the positions of Trump and Vance. What do you say to your colleagues here? And I would just say Lila Rose, there are others who cannot vote for Trump.
I disagree with him, but let me make it very clear. I think Lila is a hero in our movement, and you would share that sentiment. I mean, my goodness, what she blew open with her videos and what she is doing to reach the younger generations on social media is phenomenal. So this should not be viewed as a critique of her overall work. I would say this: Christians are not absolved from doing the greatest moral good they can because they don't like what a particular candidate did. So I always am asking the question, how can I limit evil or lessen evil in the current cycle, and what can I do to promote the good insofar as possible, given the political realities on the ground?
Mhm.
Now, some people, not Lila, but some people have come back and said things like this, Mark. Well, we need to go ahead and make sure Trump loses. I'm thinking of one pro life leader who said, we
Yeah.
must have Trump lose to save the movement. But
Oh,
that's treating babies' lives like poker chips. You're saying, I'm willing to
good point.
sacrifice them now in the short term in hopes of an idealized future, Mark, that may never come in our lifetime. I'm unwilling to do that. I'm going to save the kids in front of me. Let's go back to the burning house example. We're standing in front of a burning structure. Two people want me to assist them. One wants me to carry gasoline to throw more on the fire. The other wants to save only 15-year-olds, but nobody else. Well, which one are you going to align with if you only got two options? I think we
Mhm.
know. And that's
Mhm.
how I view this. So to me, I have to do the greatest good I can in the cycle I'm dealt with. And that current cycle says I got a choice between two very flawed candidates. Let's be clear. Both of
Mhm.
them have flawed character, but
Mhm.
one has extraordinarily bad policies to go with the
Mhm.
flawed character. The other one has policies that are compromised, but they're not full on pouring gasoline on the fire. So
Mhm.
I'm going to vote to lessen the evil as much as I can. And like we've said already, preserving the founding principles of our republic are essential for the pro life movement regrouping to fight again another day when it's more favorable in our court.
My guest is Scott Klusendorf. He is the president of Life Training Institute, and you can go to prolifetraining.com. That's prolifetraining.com. Scott's a writer, speaker, apologist. He's traveling the country and speaking about pro life issues. He's very busy as regards to these constitutional amendments, and I want to get to those with you, Scott. I think the question is, oh, we need to let Trump lose assumes that the pro-life movement is going to respond or at least has enough clout to make changes in the next election. I got news here. I don't think Donald Trump is looking at the pro-life movement right. He has made a political calculation that he may lose some votes with the pro-lifers, but he's going to gain them with pro-choice women, for example. I think it's a bad bargain, to be honest. What do
Yep.
you think about that?
Well, I think it's a dumb move on his part because look,
Agreed.
if you're a leftist activist, who you're going to vote for in this election? Your known commodity that's going to back you up completely, or a guy who just is a new kid on the block who starts talking your sentiment? I mean, it's a dumb move politically. No man's land is never a good place to go. So it's dumb on his part. But I would say this, I think you're right. The pro-life movement is not nearly as strong as people think it
Mm-mm.
is. You know, for years
Mm-mm.
we were told, "Oh, there's a sleeping giant out there, a majority that agrees with us." No, there is not. There's a reason why these pro-abortion amendments go against pro-lifers, and that is because the public does not agree with us on the basic worldview question, namely, are the unborn members of the human family? Mark, our problem is not marketing. Our
Mm.
problem is worldview. A
Yeah.
majority of Americans don't agree with us, which is why I'm so glad you and your team confront people at the worldview level when you show your pictures and you engage in discussions. That's exactly what you're doing, challenging the worldview premises that make abortion plausible to millions of our fellow citizens. That's the work the pro life movement needs to do. And until we get serious about doing that, we're not going to win. And it's
That's right.
especially problematic when we're not even serious in our churches about doing it. When there's these state amendments that come up, and I heard, you correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is a vast majority of churches in Ohio did absolutely nothing on your amendment back a year ago in November. Am I
It's
right
true.
about that?
Yes, it's true. Yep.
So if we're losing there, what makes us think we're going to win out there in the public and that we've got this silent mass of people that's really with us if we could just be more likable? That's a bunch of hooey.
Yeah.
It's a worldview challenge we're up against, and we've got to do the apologetics, which is why we focus on the arguments and the pictures. You focus on
Mhm.
the arguments and the pictures. That's where this fight's going to be won. it's not necessarily the case that politics is always downstream from culture,
That's
but
true.
surely there is a relationship between the two, and we better get serious about that relationship.
Agreed. And, as Donald Trump kind of walked back a little bit of his comment the other day about the so called 6-week abortion ban in Florida. By the way, I want people to understand something. A heartbeat law is not a 6-week ban. Please stop
Right.
using 6 weeks. It's a heartbeat protection act. It protects children at a detectable heartbeat. I know that's a lot mouthful, but it's not a 6-week ban. Yet pro lifers use it over and over again. I'm like, why do that? It
Yeah.
can save a baby at 10 weeks, 11 weeks, 9, 8, whenever detectable, it can be detected. That heartbeat can be detected at 6 weeks. Anyway, I digress. But
Yeah.
the media took that and said, oh, he's going to vote yes on Amendment 4, which isn't true necessarily. But he said he was going to after, from what I understand, a phone call from Marjorie Dannensfelser from SBA, which is great. And I think Donald Trump probably just needed some education on the topic. To be honest, from my point of view, I'm not sure the guy's even being briefed on the abortion issue because he's all over the place. So I give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt on that. And so I want to make the transition to that, if you would, Scott. I know you're very involved in this. You're going to be in Florida speaking at some churches soon. And everybody that watches us at Created Equal or pays, listens to the podcast here knows I've been on this ever since last year when we lost issue 1 in Ohio. And we've been trying to persuade these state coalitions to make the main thing, which is it's about abortion,
Yes.
friends. And even today, these organizations, these coalitions aren't making it about abortion. So, if you would, Scott, speak to this a little bit because now we've got, I think it's the last count I have. It looks like we have 10 of these that are going to be on the ballot, maybe 9 because Missouri is questionable right now because that may actually be tossed out by the court. But it looks like we might have 10 of these coming up. The biggest prize, I would say, for the other side is in Florida with Amendment 4. Speak to these if you would, and bring some clarity to what pro-lifers need to be thinking about as we face these November ballot measures.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the reason why you're correct about Florida being the big prize, there's a 60% threshold the pro
Right.
aborts have to cross to get that to pass. And if
Mm-hmm.
they can pass it in a deep red state with a red governor, and especially a governor who's come out opposed to the amendment, if they can pass it there, the sky's the limit in their view. They'll run the table on these things. And I think between you and me, we're going to lose the majority of these for a while because
Mm-hmm.
until you get the worldview premises challenged adequately, the public's going to continue voting for these things. And I get really tired of people saying, oh, the language wasn't clear, or, oh, we didn't have the right spokespeople. Garbage. No, people know what this is. They know these amendments are about abortion. Let's not be condescending to them, okay? So
Right.
we decided, our organization and another group called Apologetics Inc., we've got so frustrated seeing the messaging that came out of Ohio, Montana, Kentucky, other places where we've lost on this, where the pro-life ads really talked about everything but abortion. So
Mm-hmm.
we thought, you know what we're going to do? We think, and we could be wrong, but we feel, based on the research we've done, that I don't want to say we feel, that sounds so postmodern and so I hate that term. We believe, based on evidence, there we go,
There we go. That's
that
better.
we've seen that this ballot initiative could be decided by anywhere from 10 to 15,000 votes, that it could make a difference. It could be that
Mm-hmm.
close. So
Mm-hmm.
we've produced a series of 5 videos, very short. The longest one is 2.5 minutes, aimed at churches where they can play them at the end of their services. And it gives their congregants the reasons why to vote against Amendment 4. The first video is aimed at pastors, making the case why biblically, as shepherds, we need to lead our people into truth. The second video deals with, what do you say to a friend who's unchurched who wants to know why you're going to vote no on Amendment 4? Can you tell why in a minute or less why you're going to vote no on Amendment 4? And that video equips the listener to do that. The next video is a high school student, actually a young collegian, who stands up and says, our generation has been lied to. We've been told that without Amendment 4, we can't get the medical care we need in a problematic pregnancy. We've been told we'll be jailed if we have a miscarriage. All of these are lies. And we've been lied to as well on what abortion is. Abortion is the intentional killing of an innocent human being, and anybody who says differently is lying. So we got that going. Then we've got the latest LTI speaker, a gal by the name of Brittany, who talks about being a student at the University of Central Florida 13 years ago. She gets pregnant and everybody pressures her to abort, her sorority pals, all the people in her life, and she courageously gave birth anyway. And she talks about how Amendment 4 is just going to put undue pressure on women to abort, where the law would give them a way of having another way of looking at this without that unneeded pressure. So we're trying to keep the main thing, and people can see our videos. In fact, I'm going to send you a link. You can put it in your show notes if you want, but if they go to Apologetics Inc., or just apologetics.org/pro-life, they can get the videos that are there, and they're getting remarkable response. People are going crazy over these things because they're short, to the point. They equip people, and they keep the main thing. I get it. We do care about parents having a say in whether their kid can, go through transition surgery or not. But that's really not the issue here. The issue here is abortion. Let's talk about it. Let's educate. Let's challenge those worldview ideas that are out there. We're never going to win as long as we keep, as you say, kicking the can down the road.
Amen to that. And anybody who lived through Ohio knows it. I wrote up and if you would, Mr. Producer, pop this up, the blog that I wrote regarding why Ohio fell. It's basically an after-action report, lessons learned from the Ohio experience. And boy, I could write a book about this, Scott.
You should.
We don't have the time to go through it all, but I've been speaking to, I think, almost every single coalition group in the country to communicate the things that we learned here in Ohio. And except for a few of them, we're repeating the same mistakes, unfortunately. I've said that we overturned Roe, but we haven't overturned abortion. We talked about that. We've got to win the battle of public opinion. And we can't continue the current messaging and expect a different result. And that's what's happening. We're making it about these side issues, about it being too extreme and too confusing. Well, I got news for you. That message lost in Michigan and it lost in Ohio. Why do we think it's going to win in Florida? I don't get it. How many more times do we have to lose before we start waking up to the idea that our messaging, it's off, but if we don't start winning culture, we're going to keep losing these these battles. If you would, Mr. Producer, I want to get your take on this, Scott. This is an ad we're going to be playing in Florida. We played it in Ohio. We're going to make an ad buy here. We don't have the money like we did last time, but this is going to be playing in another week in Florida on some of the selected TV markets, targeting persuadable voters. These are marginally pro-choice voters, maybe that one way or the other don't this may not be their core issue. It's going to be targeting GOP voters, which, by the way, we're leaking 25% of them. We're losing evangelicals. We're losing Catholics. This gets to the issue of late-term abortion, which I think is a winner across the board as far as politically speaking. This is an ad that performed very well in Ohio. Go ahead and play this ad.
My birth mom was a scared teenager when she was forced into a late-term abortion. Because of a doctor's mistake, I survived, but my twin did not. I was left broken and hurt. Late-term abortion is real, and so is the pain. But the pro-choice industry wants it right up to birth. Abortions that are too late, too painful, and too extreme for Florida. Will you stand for victims? Please vote no on Amendment 4 in Florida.
There you go. 30-second ad. We're trying to put $250,000 behind this. In a state like Florida, I know that's a kind of a drop in the water, but we're hoping to get a lot of media over it. And it gets to the core question. The issue of late-term abortion polls well. We all know it. Yet, this ad performed the best in Ohio, to be honest, But yet, if you look at the websites of these coalitions, there's very little said about abortion. And I just don't understand how we think we can nuance our way to these wins. They might be temporary if we actually eke one out, but long term, it's going to be detrimental to the babies and to the future of our efforts to protect the children.
Yeah, exactly right. And I'm with you. Why would we believe that the messaging that is now 0 for 8 is going to help us in Florida and beyond? I mean, it's mind boggling. And I don't know what it is, why people who are pro life think they can go do their marketing research and come back to us and say, oh, we just need to finesse our marketing message. No, idiot. We have worldview problems. Let's address them head on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go after it. So, there's a reason why I tend to shy away from a lot of what's the word here? I don't want to be too condescending, but those that are the cool kids in the pro-life movement. And I'm not talking about people we've mentioned on this show. I'm talking about people that, want to sit back in their offices and talk about they've got marketing research that shows what really works. And we need to talk less about babies and more about women. And we got to talk more about how abortion isn't in the self-interest of women and things like that. And they're afraid to speak the simple truth that abortion intentionally kills an innocent human being. And my response is always the same, Mark. What social movement has ever succeeded joining its opponents and covering up the evil that you're trying to address? I mean, I don't get it. It's the same reason people won't show abortion pictures. They're actually helping Planned Parenthood cover up the truth. That's just nuts. I don't understand that at all.
Well, and I hate to say it, and I don't want to see any more defeats than we've already had.
No.
Because you know what that means? That means more babies die. And then
Yeah.
that's what I care about. It's all about the body count. But maybe it'll take some more failure. I don't know. I'm not wishing that upon us. I hope that we can learn without having to have that happen. But we need a complete paradigm shift in the way that we're messaging across the board in the pro-life movement. And
well, we do. And Mark, I'm going to go a step further. I hope this is okay. Your producer can edit it out if not. But I hope your viewers don't just listen to us. They write you a check for the ad you're trying to run in Florida, or write us a check for the ones we're running in Florida, because we do not want to lose in Florida.
No.
And I'm also going to say we don't want to lose the presidential election either. But we especially don't want to lose in Florida. And I know our ads, we wrote them with the voter in mind that goes, I'm disgusted with both people at the top of the tickets. I don't want to vote for either. Okay, still go vote against Amendment 4. Don't just sit this out. And I hope that Christians look at the bigger picture and say, we've got an obligation to limit evil and promote good insofar as we can. And God is not going to give us a pass on doing that because we're angry at a candidate.
My guest has been Scott Klusendorf. He's the president of Pro-Life of Life Training Institute. And friends, you can go to prolifetraining.com and write a check to their organization to help promote these ads that he is presenting in churches all across Florida. He's going to be speaking in Florida churches coming up in the next several weeks as the lead up to this November 5th election down there and the constitutional amendment. So be in prayer for Scott, support him as well. And friends, if you want to get involved in the battle, and that is right now, we've got 60 days or less before the election.
Less people are voting now.
People are voting now. So early voting's beginning soon. I'll put you in the game. I'm in contact with all these coalition leaders. We'll put you in the game, going door to door, making phone calls. It's all hands on deck, folks. I mean, this is it. This is the mother of all battles coming up here in November politically for the pro-life movement.
Yep.
And we need to show up. So, Scott, thanks for being on the program. I appreciate your work.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you, brother.
Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Scott Klusendorf, my good friend and colleague of many, many years from Life Training Institute. And Scott is one of the best speakers, probably one of the clearest communicators of the pro-life position in America, for that matter, the world. And so Scott's been a good friend of mine over the years and is very involved in training the next generation of leaders to take on the culture of death and win. And of course, he's also involved in talking about the presidential election and the battlegrounds as far as the constitutional amendments. So hopefully that's helped some of you think through what is best to do this time around. One thing for sure, we have these battlegrounds with these constitutional amendments. Of course, the biggest one, the biggest prize, if you will, the crown jewel of the pro-abortion industry would be Florida. If they could win there at a 60% threshold, I honestly think it could be the death knell to the pro-life movement. It'd be hard to see how we could recover from that politically. So we're working very hard to prevent that from happening. And friends, if you want to get involved, go to createdequal.org. Also, I will be speaking at the Operation Save America event on October 9 through 11. I don't know which day or night I'll be speaking, but friends, we will be in the state of Florida October 7 through 11. So if you want to be part of what we're doing in Florida, that is going door to door, doing public outreach, using abortion victim photography and video on the streets and in the college campuses in the state of Florida, you can contact us at createdequal.org or markharrington.org. So that's what we're doing in Florida. Soon we will be launching our LED billboard truck battleground states tour. And folks, if you would, Mr. Producer, will you pop up the map there? This is the tour they'll be launching. We will be going to the state of Pennsylvania. We're going to Missouri. We're going to Nebraska. We're going to Colorado, Nevada, Arizona. Michigan, Wisconsin. And it's a combination of the battlegrounds for the presidency. It's why we have Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania in there, but also the constitutional amendment battles. The main one being Florida, but also there are others. So this will begin soon, and we're going to be putting several of these huge billboard trucks on the road. If you want to find out more about them, you can go to createdequal.org. That's createdequal.org. See the billboard trucks. These are LED screens playing abortion victim photography and video on gigantic screens going into these states, trying to persuade people to vote no on their abortion ballot amendment. And so we'll be doing that. And friends, if you want to get involved in that, the best way to do it is to send us a donation, because this isn't cheap to roll into these states. We got to pay for housing, fuel, insurance, meals for our drivers and activists. You can go to createdequal.org/donate. That's createdequal.org/donate, or you can see the little tab on the right side of the home page to support our LED billboard trucks, our battleground state trucks, and, by the way, our tow banners, which we will fly over some of the major cities of these battleground states. So we're heavily involved as the lead up to the November election. Early voting starting soon in some of these states. So the time is now, friends. If you've been sitting on the sidelines waiting for your time to get involved, this is it. Time's running out on us, friends, and we need to get out there and change hearts and minds and change some votes, because we don't get another shot at this. We've got up to 10 of these this time around, and I don't know. It's going to be a tough one to eke out a couple of victories, but we sure need it. So you want to get involved, go to createdequal.org. If you want to follow me, go to markharrington.org. Follow me on social media, and please subscribe to the podcast, like and share it, and leave a 5-star review. We'll see you next time. God bless you. God bless America. And remember, America, to bless God.
You've been listening to Mark Harrington, your radio activist. For more information on how to make a difference for the cause of life, liberty, and justice, go to createdequal.org. To follow Mark, go to markharringtonshow.com. Be sure to tune in next time for your marching orders in the culture war.